Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time of day you're watching this. I am Mylène, I'm Mimimustknit, and this is episode number 4 in like 5 years, probably. I watched my previous episode, episode number 3, which I recorded on January 17th of 2020, so it's been over 2 years. I know it had been a long time, but I didn't realize how long it had been. So I really wish, hey iPhone people, how about you make filters for videos? Because, you know, I could do without these little wrinkles here, right? I'm 45. I have wrinkles. I need to just learn to live with it, right? So I'm going to try to go through my Make 9s for 2020 and 2021 as quickly as I possibly can, because I don't want this episode to be long. I live in the country and it takes forever to upload everything. Upload, download, whatever. So I'm actually going to start with my woolly check-in. It's basically what I'm wearing. I call it my woolly check-in. So this is basically like a modified Sockhead cowl. That's Kelly McClure, I believe. That's her name. I've made a few of these, but this one is actually made of cashmere and silk mohair. So it's chilly here today. I'm in Canada. I forgot to tell you that. Coming to you from about 45 minutes southeast of Ottawa. We're on the US border here, and I live out in the boonies, so I have like this nice little snow-covered pine trees over here. Anyway, moving on. Sockhead cowl. This is my Altheta sweater, which I spoke about in my last podcast. I had just started working on it, I suppose, and I already had a long enough episode, so I didn't want to make it longer. Either way, I love this sweater. It's another Jennifer Steingas pattern. I love her patterns. They fit great, and I just love all these little designs. So this is yarn that I bought in Prince Edward Island in Canada, in case you're not from here. It's like way east, and every time I go to PEI, I buy some yarn to make a Jennifer Steingas sweater. So this is this dark green is their Island their Island collection superwash merino worsted. And I wasn't quite getting gauge. So what I did is I paired it with some silk mohair in black. So it gave it this really cool, like, I don't know, the depth is really nice. I really love it. And then the cream color is their alpaca sock. And I paired that with some Shibui cloud that I had left over just to match. So love this sweater. And then I am wearing some slippers. So I'll just take it off. It's probably a lot easier, right? Sorry, my creaky chair. These are the little booties that I made last winter. I wear them all the time. They have major holes in them, which is why initially I had needle felted little patches on the holes, but didn't hold up. I think it may have lasted a week. So then I had this leatherette, we'll call it. So I just cut out these little shapes and put them on the bottom, and so far so good. I don't know how long they're gonna last, but I wear them like every day. They're cozy. So that's it for the woolly check-in. I guess I can dive into my Make 9 for 2020 at this point. I'm gonna start with the Okanogan socks by Andrea Rangel. I really liked knitting these. I apologize, I don't remember what the yarn is. I'm pretty sure this green contrast is Louet, but I can't remember what it is. And I didn't take good project notes on these. But the yarn's pretty nice. I like the little pops of, there's like little pops of green and stuff. And I really dig this ribbed section. But for me, it doesn't hit me in the right spot on the foot. I think I would have preferred it if it had been just a little bit higher up here. So I've been doing it. I made my son lots of socks in the last year, and I've been putting the ribbing just a little bit higher up, or closer to the heel rather. So that was my Make 9 number 1. So Make 9 2020. That was, you know, the year from hell. And I ended up being at home for, I think, 11 or 12 days. So I basically like just smoked all my Make 9s. I was done by April. I had done all my Make 9s. So the second one is the Tied Knots Hat by Justyna Lorkowska. Sorry if I said that wrong. And it's made out of it's divine alpaca, silk, and cashmere. As much as I love this hat, it's kind of like, it always ends up falling down. Love it though. I still wear it. It fits great. And I love how, because of the fiber content, it's like super slouchy and heavy. And I would wear this all the time. It's not itchy at all. And it's beautiful, this design. It's just this. So it is what it is. What am I going to do, right? The next one is the Borough Mittens by It's VO Knits. And these were like actually adult size. They are not anymore because they were too big when I finished them and the fiber was too loosey-goosey. So I felted them, but now they're like they're a little too small. So I might give them to a friend who's got some kids who might fit in these. But the yarn was nice, just not made for these mittens. So I gave them a little felt and that was it. I'll look for somebody to gift those to. My next Make 9 was the Sarah's Slouch, which is a hat by Woolly Wormhead. And I used some handspun by my friend Uli from out west. I forget how we met. I think we just met on Instagram, and then I was going out west to visit a girlfriend and I met up with her and her daughter Erica. We sat in a coffee shop and we knit, and I ended up getting this when we did an exchange that following year for Christmas. And I love this hat as well. Love the slouch. I love all these colors. She did a great job of spinning it. It's like super even. Love it, love it, love it. So I wear this one a lot. I do have a lot of hats, so I try to make my way through most of them as much as I can. The next one was the Reversible Smocked Hat by Eliza McLaughlin. I actually don't know when I made this. I know I made it before April, but this is made of leftover Belfast Mini Mills Island Collection Superwash Merino as well. I had made another Jennifer Steingass sweater out of this one. It was the one I was wearing in my last episode. Anyway, so I had enough yarn to make this hat, and I also love this one. It was a little kind of, you know, did one of these. So I put a pom-pom on it and it weighs it down just perfect. So love it. Then I have my Althea was the next one. I made a Rosemount Cardi for my sister. I had one and she absolutely loved it. So I ordered some, it was in Knit Picks, Wool of the Andes tweed, I think. Or let me see. Yeah, Wool of the Andes tweed in the brown. And it was lovely. I just made it a little bit smaller than mine because she's quite a bit smaller than I am. And mine was just like floating on her. I had made myself a burgundy one. And then I made my birds of a feather. Show it to you, the right side. This thing is enormous. I ended up dyeing the yarn for this in my kitchen. I love dyeing my own yarn for projects if I can. So I tackled this monstrosity. Sorry. Anyway, I don't wear it so much because it's so huge. I wear it more around the house than under a coat to go out or anything like that. But I love it. It's huge, it's cozy, it's soft. It was a superwash merino single, I believe, that I dyed. And then the fuzzy one isn't a silk mohair. I think it was an alpaca. I'm not sure where I got it. It might be Knit Picks. I'm pretty sure my girlfriend gave it to me. It was undyed, so I just threw it in the pot with the single and came out with the different shades because the dye bonded differently to the different fibers, and love it. So my next one, just throwing stuff all over the place, is the Tensho by Beatrice Perron Daelyn. This pattern was originally written for a worsted weight, but I had all this Lopi that somebody had given me, and I really wanted to use it for this sweater. So I had to modify the whole chart. What did I do? I remember making it like in an odd way, because you can see there's a pickup right here. So I think I made the yoke from here up, and I just put a provisional cast on here, and then I worked it all the way up, and then I picked up and worked my way down to finish it. It's quite stiff. I don't know, I feel like it could almost stand up by itself, but it's pretty, right? Love these colors. I don't know if they're quite my colors, but it's still nice. I just don't wear it as much because it's really stiff. But it's lovely. I've been trying to make a point of wearing all my hand-knit sweaters. Maybe I'll do a sweater parade at some point, just to show the sweaters that I have. So in the end, in 2020, after I finished all my Make 9, I made lots and lots of other stuff because we weren't allowed to go anywhere. So I ended up making 6 pairs of mittens, 1 pair of leg warmers that I made for my sister because she's always cold, 9 pairs of socks, but that's probably not all the socks I made because some of them I don't even count. They just come to work with me and I forget to take photos or document in Ravelry. I made 12 hats. Some of them I made twice because they either weren't the right size or whatever. So I put 12 plus hats, 1 pair of slippers, 6 shawls, 3 cowls, 8 sweaters. I think that's decent for a year, right? And 5 headbands. So that was the total tally of knitted items from 2020. And so I made everything on my Make 9 2020. I failed, however, at making my Make 9 for 2021. I ended up making 4 out of the 9, which isn't so bad, but I still made a lot of other things. And I don't know if I went through a little phase where I, kind of lost my mojo a little bit. So less knits in 2021, but I did spin for 2 sweaters that I ended up knitting in that year. So maybe that'll count for some of the time. But the first one was the Growing Cardigan by Growing Cardigan. Just look it up. I'm not going to pronounce her name because I'm going to massacre it anyway, but her first name is Lone. And I spun the yarn for this. Actually spun a lot of extra yarn, but it ended up beautiful. I probably could have spun a thicker yarn, but the cardigan still turned out gorgeous. I don't know what this fiber is because I got it, I don't know, it's 100 years ago when I went to the Woodstock Fleece Festival. Oh, I have yarn in my mouth, or hair, one or the other. So I'm not sure. I just had a huge bag of this stuff, so I spun it up to make this cardigan. It's got pockets, y'all. Isn't that awesome? And I kind of like the way it's made. So you cast on this provisional cast on right here, work this way, and then a little bit this way. And then I joined it to make the body in the round. I thought it was a kind of a cool construction. I might end up making another one of these at one point because I love pockets. The second one is the Skovmaerker by Fiber Tales. If you've never watched her podcast, Sorry, holy cow. Hair. If you've never watched the Fiber Tales podcast, go for it. She's got beautiful designs. I love her aesthetic. She's super chill and quiet, and anyway, I love her designs. So this is the Skovmaerker, and I've made it out of the Retrosaria Soft Donegal that I ordered from the Rosa Pomar store in Lisbon. I've been to Lisbon, but I don't think I made it to her store because we did find one little yarn shop, but it had a lot of the commercial stuff that we find back home, right? So I didn't really care to buy anything there, but love these little baubles. I'm so not a baubles person, but I kind of dug it because there's not a lot. And then you have these little leafy things. They're like just pulled stitches. I wore the heck out of this thing when my son and I went gallivanting through Europe in the fall of 2021. It was, you know, I didn't bring that much clothes because we were doing carry-on. So I wore this thing to death. It's really comfortable. It's not thick. It's not heavy. It's just perfect. I had this Sorel sweater by Woolen Pine. That was another make that I didn't get around to it. I had totally planned to dye the yarn for it. I've since dyed my blank yarn for other things. I had the Druid Mittens as well by Jared Flood. Didn't make those. The Ruto sweater, which is also a sweater by Fiber Tales, and it's got this beautiful, what do you call that stitch? The one everybody's afraid to do. It escapes me, but maybe I'll put a picture over here so you guys can see what I'm talking about. In my brain, this word. Anyway, it'll come to me later. And I ended up buying yarn from Leike, the Fiber Tales girl. She has some, her family has sheep. My brain's not working today. I can't remember what kind of sheep it is. Brioche. There we go. Brioche stitch. That's what I was talking about. So here is the yarn I got from her. And it's from her family's sheep. It's Gotland. All I had to do was get up and go get it. And it was staring me in the face, but I remembered before I got it. But anyway, so this is what I would use to make that sweater. I've had it in my stash for some time. Just something keeps coming up that I want to make just a little bit more. The next sweater that I had planned to make in 2021 was a ranunculus. I've been dying to make that sweater forever. I was gonna dye yarn for it, but I didn't get around to it. So I'll just transfer that over to this year. I didn't actually make a make 9 this year, but anyway. The Nightshift shawl was kind of fun because I had like a bunch of hand spun yarn that I didn't know what to do with. I spin yarn, but I don't typically knit with it. It's just pretty to look at. I never know what to do with it because you buy a braid, which is typically 4 ounces, and 4 ounces, is that 113 grams? I think that's what it is. So it's not a lot of yarn, so you can't really make anything big. You can make hats or mittens or something like that, but so I had all these, you know, random skeins, so I kind of put them together and made my Nightshift shawl. And I think it turned out pretty cool. This section is kind of boring, right? Because it's not a lot of contrast. There is some, but the purple was so, I don't know if you can see the purple, was so fine that it didn't really show up. So it's the same light purple that's right here that I kind of carried through. I really liked this red. Anyway, that's it. So that was my Nightshift shawl by Andrew Mowry that I made out of my hand spun. And then I had the Hot Cider Hat, and that's an Amy Miller pattern. And just look at this cable. So nice. And I love this cast on. I don't know if the pattern actually has this cast on or if I just did it myself, because I love this tubular cast on for hats because it's gorgeous. And this is, so this yarn is from a local farm and it's called Les Belles Bouclettes. She is, I met her through my spinning guild. They had like a little marketplace at, it was a little fiber event. Anyway, they had a few vendors and she was there and I fell in love with this color. It's like this burnt orange. And I've always wanted to make this hat because Amy Miller in her pattern page has, or on her Ravelry pattern page, she has, her hat is this color. So I've been obsessed with making this hat in this yarn forever. So not sure if it's like totally my colors, but who cares, right? The total tally for 2021 in knits was minimum 5 pairs of socks. I probably made 10, but didn't document them. Didn't put them on my Ravelry. So bad for that. I still ended up making 6 sweaters for the whole year. I made 3 shawls, 4 hats. So when I calculated those numbers, I was like, wow, I didn't make that much stuff compared to 2020, but spun yarn for 2 sweaters. It was a Shetland that I had spun. It'd been sitting in my stash forever. And I just went on. I measured like the weight of the yarn and just found a sweater that was perfect for it. I wish I could remember what the name was. Maybe in the next episode. It's in my Ravelry. I am Mimimustknit everywhere. On Instagram, on Ravelry. I also have a Mimimustknit Facebook page, but I hardly ever go on Facebook. Facebook kind of just bugs me. I'm actually not on social media that much. I check it, but I don't post it that often. Anyway, so some honorable mentions from 2021. My son and I ended up going on what was supposed to be 2 weeks and maybe a couple of days to Europe. We were going to do Belgium and the Netherlands. I was going to go see my friend Svan in the Netherlands. She's just north of Amsterdam. It's like a couple hours and on a train maybe. So I got to meet her in person. We met through Ravelry a long time ago and we've been chatting for probably, it's got to be at least 5 years. So when I told her I was going to the Netherlands, I was like, hey, I want to go see you. So my son and I went and hung out with them for a weekend. So Svan and her boyfriend Sam are the same age as my son. So, you know, I felt like the old lady the whole time. But either way, so this trip that was supposed to be 2.5 weeks at the most for Belgium and the Netherlands ended up being a 4-week to the day, like Sunday to Sunday, 4 weeks. We did 6 countries and we started in Paris because my son wanted to go see a PSG soccer game, which was like insane, by the way. I actually really, really enjoyed it as well. Just the energy in there was, I thought I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. Because they were throwing off flares and the energy was just bonkers. And I also had my 45th birthday while we were in Paris. So that was pretty cool. So when he said, hey mom, do you want to go to Paris, you know, to see a PSG game? I'm like, yes, I do, because I think it's super duper cool that I'm going to have my 45th birthday in Paris. Right? How many people get to say that? So he ended up, I turned 45 in Paris and he turned 27 in Rotterdam, in the Netherlands, which was super cool. But we made our way, so we went to Paris, then we went to Brussels, Ghent, which is a really amazing, by the way. It's tiny, like, it's a little town, but it's super old. There's a castle right in the middle. And that's basically was our landmark. So whatever we did all day, we would just find the castle, and then we took a left at the castle to get back to our little apartment, which was so cute. I ended up buying yarn in Ghent. and I made this little hat. I love this hat. I don't even know. I don't remember what the yarn is. I apologize. It's somewhere on my Ravelry page. But I bought this yarn in Ghent, and I started it in Ghent, and I finished it. I think I finished it in Antwerp. So it's just, everybody's got these, you know, Carhartt hats with the patch on the front, but I just make my own. So it's got the head nipple. It's the fashion, right? So I made this one and I love it. I love this hat, the way it fits. It's just my own pattern. I think it might be in my Ravelry notes, you know, how many stitches I cast on, and I kind of like the way the decrease ended up. So the decrease is actually on the right side, looks like this. It's a double decrease, a center double decrease. But if you flip it over, I love the way it looks on the flip side. So that was my intention, to make it so that I'm wearing it inside out. I also, when we were in Amsterdam, every time I go to Amsterdam, so I think this is my 3rd time there, I always go to Stephen and Penelope, naturally. And I ended up getting some of his yarn. Also can't remember what it's called. But I ended up making a Fleur shawl, which is a free pattern by Espace Tricot in Montreal. They put this out. So I bought enough yarn and I literally cast it on while we were on our trip. And I finished it while we were on our trip. I think it took me a week to make this shawl. And it's so beautiful. So it's got, you know, like a worsted weight yarn. I believe it's a worsted weight, maybe a sport. And then I paired it with a silk mohair. So it's pink with a purple silk mohair. Because I'm not a big pink person, but they didn't have this nice purpley lilac mauve in the sport weight yarn. Anyway, I went to town on this thing and I love it. It is so cozy. This is usually how I end up wearing it. Just like this. But it's kind of doesn't really fit under a coat, right? So I mostly just wear it either around the house or around a small coat where I put it on the outside because it's humongous. I had to modify the pattern because I was like playing some serious yarn chicken. So my baubles around the middle are a little weird. So Stephen and Penelope, I think the first time I went there, I spent an insane amount of money. I just like all these yarns we can't get here, right? Like hedgehog fiber was kind of tough to find in Canada when it first came out. There's Ching fiber, Ushitita. What else did I get? Anyway, I bought a whole bunch of stuff. This time I actually bought a skein of La Bien-Aimée. It was the only skein I bought. It was really expensive, but at least now I can say I've used La Bien-Aimée in my lifetime. And then the last thing I think I made, this one is from this year though, so far. And this is, I should have researched this, I'm sorry. The Snuggle is Real by Maxime Sia. He's a designer out of Montreal, and I saw this and I was like, oh my God, I have to make this. So I had a bunch of yarn in my stash that was drops. I can't even remember what it was. It's drops anyway. So I had this cream color. I had the most of this cream color. And then I had these three, the yellow, orange, and red. So I decided to, in his pattern, the contrast color is kind of like the background color or the main color. You do this in the main color, but then the main color becomes your little dots here. But I switched it up so I could use portions of these. And then I ended up dyeing this like fluorescent orange silk mohair to go inside. I wear this thing. Well, I wore it to go snowshoeing last week, and I wore it to blow the snow in my driveway. But when you start to sweat, it gets a little bit itchy. Anyway, I love this. It is so like, so squishy. I love it. So that is about it. I mean, I knit a lot, but it's been 2 years. I can't possibly show you guys everything I made. So far this year, in 2022, I have made 5 pair of socks, and I have 2 that are on the needles right now. I made this cowl and one sweater, which is in the sink right now blocking. It's the Cumulus sweater, and I use yarn that I dyed myself. Turned out pretty good, I think. I found a way to graft, because it's got this I-cord edging all around the sleeves and around the V-neck and around the bottom. And, you know, like, because the I-cord goes around, and then when you get to the seam, you're like, well, this is gonna look like crap. So I found a video on YouTube that shows you how to graft the two I-cord ends together, and it looks stunning. Like, you can't even tell where the ends meet. So that is, I thought that was pretty clever. I'll be right back to see my current works in progress. All right, I am back. I apologize for that. When I finished my sweater last night, I was debating between casting on the Retour sweater, the fiber tails, or what was the other one? Oh, another Jennifer Stein Gas pattern. The name escapes me right now. Or the half and half. I think it's called the half and half wrap. It's a Pearl Soho. This is all I've got done this morning. I think it's like 4 rounds maybe. But 260 stitches, takes a little while, right? But these are the 2 colors that I purchased. It's the Pearl Soho linen quill. I absolutely adore this yarn. I made a t-shirt a few years ago. And when I was going through all my sweaters, because I wanted to wear all my sweaters, I put it on. I think it's called Good, G-O-O-D-E, or Goody. I'm not really sure. It's a Pearl Soho pattern as well. And I used a charcoal linen quill. So I put it on and I was just like, oh my God, I need to make something else out of this. So this is maybe Christmas Eve or something like that. So I went on the Pearl Soho website and this stuff was on sale. So I ended up getting 6 skeins for like 120 bucks. Maybe Canadian. Of course, it's not that expensive American, but our exchange is like, so that's the project I just cast on this morning. Like I said, oh yeah. So I have 2 pair of socks on the go. One is with Shirley Bryan yarn, you know, the gradient. They will be gorgeous. Maybe I'll just grab those. Hang on. Oh, my little project bags. Sheesh. So these are the socks I'm making with the Shirley Bryan yarn. And this is where it's going to end up with this like gold. Love this. I am so obsessed with how she dyes her yarn so that she gets this gradient. I need to figure it out so I can dye my own. Because it's got a gradient. It must be in a sock blank. If anybody knows, drop me a comment. Because I need to figure this out. I spend a lot of time thinking about it. So I put in a black heel because I didn't want to ruin the flow of the gradient. So I just literally put in scrap yarn and then I went in and did the heel right away because I want to use all of this. There's 2 little nuggets here. I want to use all of this. So I'm going to have to do some calf increases at some point. So I wanted to put the heel in so I could try them on and then decide where I needed to start increasing. I figured it would be the easiest way to do it. The second pair of socks that I have on the go is for my son. They're just like super plain. I started one from the inside of the ball and the other one, or from the cake, and the other one from the outside. So that's why one is like pink and the other one is blue. I find it changes the color, but he doesn't care. He just wants hand knit socks. He doesn't have enough and he's really rough on his socks, so he blows through them in no time. So my goal is to make as many pair of socks for him as I can so that he can go through them not as quickly. There we go. I am also test knitting a pair of Selbu mittens for my friend Mary, who's Doorstopper. I think that's her name, Doorstopper or Doorstopper 1. on Instagram. She took the same class as I did, which was the Sabu Mitten P4 Chen. Oh my goodness. My memory is shite today. I apologize. So she designed these Sabu mittens and I told her I would test them. I'm not super sure how I feel about these tiny little needles, and they are sharp as, I don't know, my finger had, I had like literally poked the needle through my skin. It was kind of painful for a couple days, so I stopped working on these. Love this little, the palm part. These are going to be quite nice. And this is some Fino PT, the Fino PT2 that I got from Espace Tricot last year when I was taking the designing course for the Sabu mittens. And I think that is it. Other than my granny stripe blanket that I haven't worked on in a little bit. I think that's it. So in the last 2 years, major things that have happened, not super major, but I finally built a gazebo at my house. I live in the country. I've been here since 2006 and I've always wanted a gazebo because the summer bugs here are just like, they'll carry you away. But it's not enjoyable to sit outside. So we, my friend Eric and I, total amateurs, built a gazebo. And it's been like the best thing. I'm so happy that I finally decided to do it, but I wasn't traveling, right? So it was always a question of, do I want to spend the money on a gazebo or do I want to go travel? And travel always wins for me. Do I want to put money in the house? Do I want to travel? Travel, always. Sometimes I have to put money in the house because things break. But, you know, as much as I can, I try to travel. So couldn't travel, 2020, right? June of 2020, spent the money and we built a gazebo. And I spent so much time in there that summer. I spent a lot of time in there last summer as well. Spent a ton of time on the water, on the kayaks. My friend Renee and I got kayaks and we were out there as much as we possibly could. I also had 9 weeks off in the fall of 2020. I think I was off from around my birthday till like the end of November. 63 days, I think. I ended up documenting it on YouTube because everybody was like, you're gonna be so bored. You're gonna want to come back to work early. And I was like, me, I don't get bored. So I documented it every day. I put up a little vlog on how I was keeping busy and I didn't get bored. Not a single smidge, not a nanosecond, not even close. I read a ton of books in 2021. I think I read 40 books, listened to on Audible as well. So I kind of fell in love with reading again. So that's been really awesome. I think one of my favorite books of 2021 was The Midnight Library. I just really loved the story, like the idea, the story. But I read a lot of great books that year, joined a book club, which also motivated me to read more and read books I wouldn't have otherwise chosen. And then Jacob and I went on our big trip in the fall. I was a little iffy about it at first, like, oh, okay, COVID, and then it's going to cost a lot of money. And, you know, but honestly, it was one of the best trips. I've been on a lot of trips. I've traveled a lot, but this one was so much fun. And my son is probably the only person that I can spend that much time with and not want to throttle. I mean, I made him, so he's a lot like me. We didn't argue, not a single time. We got along, you know, he's like, hey, want to do this? Yeah, sure. Or I wanted to go to museums. I was shocked that this kid wanted to go to museums. Like, he's still my child, but he's still a boy. And boys don't, you know, most boys, I don't want to generalize, but even my sister hates museums. So I was really, really surprised. We did some amazing stuff. I don't even know so much. If you're on Instagram and you feel like checking out what we did, it's in my, I don't even know what you call them, my reels. They're not reels. You know, when you do stories, you could save them and it comes up on the top there. Whatever. There's 3 albums. I think they're all 100 pictures each. And it goes through every place we went to. And the transits, the people we met up with one of Jacob's friends as well. Simon, he's from France, but he worked in Montreal with Jacob. And so we met up with him in Brussels and traveled to Ghent together where he was going to school. And then, yeah, Svan and Sam made some new friends while we were in Manchester that were from Scotland. So that was really fun. And Ireland. So yeah, we did 6 countries. France, Belgium, the Netherlands, Scotland, England, and Ireland. I think that's not a bad trip, eh? Anyway, I think that's enough for today. It's going to take me forever to edit this and probably even longer to put it on the internet, on the YouTube. And I feel like going to spin now. So I'm going to spin some yarn this afternoon. I'll tackle some editing here and there and probably upload it from work because the speed is probably a lot better from there. Working nights this weekend, so I'll get it done. Anyway, hope you're all doing well and that you're keeping busy, crafting, knitting, crocheting, whatever you do. I will make anything that I can possibly make. So if you're like me, then, you know, go make something. I'll talk to you soon. Bye. P.S. I will put links to all the things I talked about because I forgot a lot of things. So I'll put it down there in the description and stuff. Okay?